In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, we have a very special show that we are calling Women with a Passion. I want to welcome you all to a deeply moving and powerful edition of America in Black and White, where stories of resilience rise to center stage. Tonight, we honor four extraordinary women whose courage, creativity, and unwavering purpose have transferred pain into power and trauma into testimony. First, there's Dr. Catrena Elliott, a relentless advocate and visionary leader, brings a voice steeped in compassion and clarity. Through her book, she leads readers on a journey of healing, illuminating how the darkest trails can uncover the brightest truths. Next, there's Miss Melissa Jones, a fierce storyteller and truth teller, dares to unearth the wounds we often hide. Her words reach into the depths of lived experience, offering not only reflection, but redemption. Then there's Dr. Somone Washington, whose grace and grit are woven into every page she pens, reminds us that healing is not linear, but it is possible. Her work is a sanctuary for those seeking peace, power, and the permission to thrive. Last but not least, there's Dr. Shawn D. Witt, a literary light and legacy builder, shares her journey with raw authenticity. Her book becomes a mirror and a map, helping others navigate the complexities of trauma with hope, courage, and transformation. These women are not just authors, they are architects of change. Their stories carry the weight of lived struggle, but they rise with passion and purpose, becoming lighthouses for others walking through storms. So tonight, prepare to be moved, inspired, and reminded that all voices like theirs are not just necessary, they are revolutionary. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you all to the Women on a Mission. Hello, Miss Melissa.
Well, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. Hello, Dr. Somone.
How you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Hello, Dr. Witt. How are you? Dr.
Hi,
Witt?
Ms. King. Good afternoon.
How are you? Where is Ms. Elliott?
Hello, ladies.
Hey.
Can you not hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Is Miss Elliott going to be here?
Yes, she should be on her way.
Okay. Well, I want to tell you women that, I'm so honored that you all blessed me, to have you all on the show. Because when I participated in your book launch really moved me. And I got to say, the stories were more than just compelling, but they were so riveting that they were just touching, to where I'm sure that you guys have had to have gotten a lot of great feedback from that book launch.
Yeah.
So let's just start with Ms. Jones. Can you give us a brief introduction of who you are?
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Charles, for having me on your podcast, and my fellow sisters. We appreciate this opportunity. My name is Melissa Jones, and I am an international best-selling author of the book Claim Your Comeback, Begin Your Journey to Healing and Wholeness, where I teach people how to build their own blueprint to come back from anything that has set them back in life. And I'm also, I like to call myself the elevation strategist. Again, that you can elevate yourself to wherever you want to be. It doesn't matter what you've been through, any setbacks, roadblocks. Just know that if you want it to come into fruition, it can definitely happen. So I help people elevate their lives.
Wow. Dr. Washington.
Yes, thank you so much for having me on your platform, having us. We really appreciate this opportunity. My name is Dr. Somone Washington. I am the author of The Best of All Things, the topic. No, what happened? Okay. The tapestry of faith, hope, and the human connection. And this is just about a brief part of my journey through a medical illness, diagnosis, and ultimate recovery. And I wanted to share my story to inspire others who may be going through something similar, to be honest about how my faith was developed through this process, and just looking forward to making an impact in this world.
Dr. Witt.
Good afternoon. Again, thank you, Mr. Charles, for having me. Hello to my sisters and literary colleagues, if you will. I'm Dr. LaShawn, the global strategist. I am soon to be have an award winner, international bestseller author. I'm also founder of several businesses. I most importantly that holds dear to my heart is my nonprofit, My Sister's Keeper, which we focus on empowering women through education, workforce development, and spiritual transformation. One of the things that's most important to me, Mr. Charles, is that all the different businesses and the platforms that I have, I use that as an opportunity to empower women. First and foremost, being a part of this group of dynamic women, authors in bloom, it's a beautiful extension of what my purpose is. And joining these phenomenal women who also have their own testimonies and sharing our stories together, I believe that with the four of us, there's so many lives that we're going to impact by being blended in this bloom of unity, if we will. My book is The Diva Herself. I survived my mess, and it's simply, I wanted to free myself and others from the shame and most importantly, the silence of surviving personal storms. My journey through, heartbreak, betrayal, and rediscovering my worth, it wasn't just about survival. It was about transformation. So I just wanted to give my voice to the women who God is going to allow me to speak into their lives.
Wow. I think, all of you all are so powerful. And I do want to tell you that as we were promoting this show, I will honestly tell you that there were several women that was like, they're going. So I am more than sure that you guys are going to more than make some impact. But, I just want people to be able to just know that, through whatever they're going through, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And you all are such a perfect example of that, because when you're able to sit there and be in your truth and you can tell your story, that means more than anything in the world. Nothing tops that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's start with what I'm going to do is, I'll start with, I'll ask you all some questions. And let's say, like, I'm going to start with Miss Jones, but if the question actually, feels like, if you feel like it's relevant to you as well, you're more than able to give some feedback to that question as well. Because, with this forum being open, I just want to make sure that the voices are definitely heard. Yeah. Ms. Jones, can you tell us what motivated you to write your book, And how did you find the courage to share your story?
Wow, that is a great question. Especially that second part, because I am a private person. So for me to be vulnerable, especially at this level, I mean, I've hit international best-selling author. So it is literally, my book is selling around the world. And so it's out there, right? But what really led me on the path to go ahead and write the book and publish it is because in my private conversations with people that I was developing relationships with, I found a lot of them had a similar story. And I believe many times we feel like we're the only ones that's going through this particular situation when we're really not. And so I said, I need to share this to as many people as I can to give them hope. Because literally, I went through a season of my life where I did not know if I was going to make it to the next day. And
Oh,
I know
wow.
I'm not the only one. And I know if I was able to come back from that season of life that I did, anybody can. And I wanted them to see that, I wanted them to see, look, I'm human, I'm tangible, I'm not a person who went out and did a case study and interviewed like thousands of people. Like, it's my life, my
Right.
testimony, and I give
Yes.
them the blueprint, my blueprint, and I give them an opportunity at the end of each chapter to create their own blueprint so they can go out too and come back from anything that they've gone through in life.
Oh, wow. Dr. Washington, what inspired you to write your book, and how did the process of writing help you heal?
Yes. So um, I've been on this health journey for about 15 years. And every time I share my story, the response is always, you should write a book. And so I've been hearing that for a number of years. And during the pandemic, when the world slowed down a bit, I took the time to start writing. It was also after the loss of my father in 2022 that really inspired me to start writing. And so, how I started writing was just by typing out the journal entries that I had written during this period of my life. And that became the manuscript that started me on the journey of writing this book. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of the
Um,
question?
and how did the process of writing help you to heal?
So, writing about the process of like what happened, because I was just 24 years old, I was at the top of health as far as I knew. I had just finished grad school, I had my own apartment, my own car, I was just living my life. And then all of a sudden, this happened. And I had no other like health issues before this. So, my story is an example of a person doing everything right in their control and still being, knocked off their plan for their life, just kind of out of nowhere, and how to like come back from that, right? Um, and so I really didn't have a problem kind of like talking about that process and what it was like to go through this medical illness. But when it got to the parts about relationships, romantic relationships, and how I was navigating that with this medical illness, that's where I ran into an emotional blockage where I couldn't write and I couldn't move forward in my writing because, the story is written in chronological order. And so it was through working with my book coach and talking through like why I didn't want to write about this, why I didn't want to revisit this part of my life, and really talking through that, that helped me get through it. She basically said that if it's this difficult for you to write about your own story, then that means that there's a lot of value in what you have to share, and that will resonate with a lot of people in how you got through that. And so it's important for you to write it. And so once we had that conversation, I was able to continue writing. And so there was a bit of healing in that, just being able to talk through it. and just discovering that, you know, I still had a lot of emotions connected to that part of my history. And so I'm proud of myself for being able to get through that. And I do hope that a lot of people resonate with that part of my story.
Dr. Witt, what inspired you to write your book, and how did the process of writing help you to heal?
You know, God told me to write a book a very long time ago. Unlike these ladies, I was a little disobedient. Let's just say it took me a very long time. As I was listening to Dr. Somone and Melissa talk about their journey, I did have the pleasure of reading Melissa's book before Simone, and read hers right after. And as I was, finishing up the touches of my book, I really got to a point where I felt at first that I was writing too much, and I didn't really understand like why all these different things were just kind of coming out. And as I was editing the book, I kept saying, no, I'm going to take this out. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to, going all back and forth. And so honestly, when I look back now at the motivation, I'm going to be honest and transparent. My reasoning, first off, was to write a book because I needed to prove stuff to people. You know how we go through this life. I struggled with validation, Charles, because I am always one to react to what people say about me, what people think about me, and the perception. And there was always this misperception of things because of the kind of person that I am, transparent in the way that I dealt with certain things. And I told myself, I just want people to hear my story and to understand my heart and to understand why I have done things that I've done. And then as I started down this journey, people made me feel like the mistakes that I made, it was something was wrong with me and that I was the only person, doing the things that I did. And so as I took this journey to write this book, it was really my desire, if you will, to break free, like I said, from this silence and shame that I was dealing with. And I knew, okay, it may be for me, but there's a possibility that there may be one person out there who has ever felt like her story was too messy, it was too painful, it was too complicated to be told. And I know there was a significant part in my life where I struggled with what people said about me, what people thought about me. And that for me was kind of the breaking point of, I just need to tell my story. I just need to just get it all out. So I knew that there were women out there that were silently surviving this trauma that they've gone through as a child. And I knew it was similar. I just didn't know how similar it was until people started reading the story and sharing their own stories. And so I wanted them to know ultimately that you may feel alone, but you're not alone, and that healing is possible. And I found my courage, if you will, the courage to write the story through once I got through that healing journey. Because sometimes you got to stop and make sure before you tell this story, am I completely healed? Because there were certain parts that I was writing and things were coming out, anger, embarrassment, shame, and all these things. And I'm like, okay, it's triggering. So even during the journey, I had to go back to therapy at some point. So God kept reminding me, yes, that, my pain had a purpose and my testimony could be someone else's breakthrough. And so the more I embrace that truth, I realized that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's power. So just like these ladies, telling my story, wasn't about reliving this hurt, but it was about reclaiming my voice and being able to remind women as I'm on this journey in different, avenues, that they're just like me. Our struggles may be different, but we all have something that we've gone through in life.
Oh, wow. Before I continue, I just want to tell you all something, is that, we're launching our online magazine, right? Inside the magazine, I want you to know that there is an actual, there's a segment that actually covers this episode and talks about you all, because I think it's that impactful. And so just when you guys do get the opportunity, when you do get the magazine, when it comes out on August 1st, so it'll be distributed then. And I want to make sure that you guys enjoy that, because it really, really matters. Just as listening to just this first question here, this is impactful, and I really, I'm loving this. Let's stay with you, Dr. Witt. Can you share a pivotal moment in your life that shaped the message of your book?
Oh boy, oh boy. That's always the question that I hate. because I'm always like, I don't even know. It changes every time. But again, thank you to the viewers that are out there listening. The pivotal moment for me that I think that I can really recall and stand on today, it came, when I found myself really broken and exhausted and really questioning who I was and my purpose. And, you go through this life where you meet people, you see them operating in purpose. You're scrolling on Instagram, people are living their purpose. Everybody's doing this, they're doing that. And believe it or not, people who, are highly skilled, they're highly talented, they're educated, they're in multiple things. Sometimes we get lost. We don't really know what our purpose is. We're just trying to make everything right. And sometimes when you're seen as this superhero, you're questioning yourself like, I don't even know what I need to be doing in life. So I had spent so much time helping people, investing people, showing up, giving my time, and I'm now using this word, return on investment. Like I'm giving so much time to people, to organizations, to friendships, to business ventures, showing up with a smile, but behind closed doors, I'm hurt. I feel left out. I feel rejected. I feel like I don't belong there. And so one day when I looked in the mirror, I realized I no longer recognized this woman who was staring back at me. She wasn't who she said that she was. And so that moment of truth for me, it was like, I have to stop pretending. I have to deal with what's going on inside of me. If that means I have to isolate myself, cut off everybody, go to therapy, join this, do this, whatever. I knew I had to comfort my own story, not to just stay in this mess, but to finally rise from it. So, I realized at that point, it was like, this is the pivotal point of where I need to write this stuff down. I need to get this out of my head. I need to help somebody. And so I think for me, it probably wasn't, the best route, but it was just going through all these different things that I had to unmask and deal with one layer at a time. And believe me, it was a lot of layers.
Oh, wow. So,
Yeah.
but Dr. Witt, when you decided to go to therapy, I mean, like, did you figure that therapy would like really do some good, or did you think just going in the beginning to feel it out, to see if it's something that you would really like to do? How did that work out to where it worked in your favor?
So I always had this negative connotation about therapy because when my parents went through a divorce, my dad had us going to therapy, and I always blamed the therapist because they didn't keep my parents together. And so when I thought through this thing, I would always hear therapy. I just was like, it just doesn't work for me. I dropped out of a graduate program because I thought one day I was going to be a marriage family therapist. As I journeyed on and realized the things that I talk about in my book, there were certain times people would tell me to go to therapy. I did the grief therapy. I did all these different things, and I felt like it didn't work. But there came a time for me, once I started to unpack things that were happening, I realized that therapy was life-changing for me. I had 5 therapists in different areas, if you will, but it gave me a safe space to unpack those things that I had been carrying for years. I learned how to deal with the grief of my grandmother passing that I didn't realize I hadn't dealt with. I realized that I didn't deal with my parents' divorce until I was in my 30s. I suffered from being raped. I never told anyone that until I was in my late 30s. Those were different things that I had to go get some help. I had to seek help from, mental abuse and physical abuse that I was dealing with. And so I wasn't the strong one anymore. I wasn't the fixer. I wasn't the leader. I had to learn that I was just LaShawn as I traveled through this journey of therapy. And I learned how to heal. I learned how to process my pain. And I learned how to deal with guilt and shame. My therapist helped me to connect the dots between, those past experiences and my present patterns. And now how I did not have boundaries, how I didn't forgive myself, how I didn't stop seeking validation through this overachievement. It also helped me to deal with, I don't care if I'm a member of an organization, I'm giving my all. What am I getting from that organization? These friendships that I'm longing for, these people that I thought were my sisters, people who I call my sis, and she's doing this and she's saying that. Those are the things that I realized I had to go to therapy to figure out how to deal with letting people go, again, creating those boundaries and saying no, because I did not know how to say no. I felt guilty when I didn't answer my phone. But now, oh, okay, that's how I am right now because I'm prioritizing myself. And that is for me what I got out of therapy. So that's why I'm like a proponent now. Let's go. Therapy. Let's go. It works.
Dr. Washington, can you share a specific moment or experience that deeply influenced your writing?
Well, I kind of talked about that moment where it was hard to write, but I think the final stretch of getting published was the most challenging time for me. It just seemed like all of the support that I thought I had was just disappearing one by one. And I understand that they were probably attacks from the enemy to not have this book come out, because I know that it is impactful to add to the kingdom of God. And so my editor had my book for 3 months. And then after 3 months, she had 15 minutes worth of feedback for me. I was devastated by that and very disappointed. And so that was the beginning of this snowball of, at every turn where I was seeking help, or someone said that they would help, or trying to figure out the self-publishing process, which isn't very difficult. It's just that every time I turned around, there would be another disappointment, one after the other after the other. And it just taught me to stay focused and to persevere through. If you believe in what it is that you're doing, and that you believe that this is part of your purpose, and that this project has the potential for impact. And so I just had to push through. I had to cry about it and then dry my tears. And then what's the next step? I had to do that every day for several weeks until it got to the point where we were published, and I had a book in my hand that was a real book that I had created. So I thank God for the journey. I thank God for the perseverance that was developed out of it. And I thank God for the process, and being able to say that this is part of the process, that no matter what is happening, no matter what disappointments are coming, to push through until the end, because it matters that your project is done.
Melissa, can you tell us, how has writing help you process and make sense of your experience?
How has writing my book helped me
Yes,
process?
and make sense
Can you
of your
repeat that?
experiences.
Oh, yes. So for me, I felt like I was in a prison, not physically, but metaphorically. And if many of us are honest with ourselves, many of us will say, you know what, I do feel like I'm in a prison metaphorically as well. And what I mean is, um, I had like this prison of guilt and shame. So I was like living under the weight of like my past mistakes. Like I was of forgiveness, even unworthy. I had like a prison of fear and anxiety. So I was being emotionally and mentally imprisoned by fear, worry, or dread. Like I went through a season where I was abandoned. So I had that to deal with, and like what's gonna happen, about my future. I was in the prison of grief and brokenness. So I was feeling stuck in my sorrow. Some days I wasn't even able to move forward because of my loss and my trauma. Um, and then I think a lot of us deal with a prison of even unforgiveness. We may not look at it like that, but sometimes we're trapped by bitterness for from what people have done to us, and the unwillingness to forgive others as well. And so I had to deal with all of that. And so writing my book and showing people how I claim my comeback, literally, to go from where I didn't think I was even gonna make it, to now God just allowing me to thrive. It's incredible. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, of course it does. I would just want to ask each of you ladies to answer this question for me. In the process of doing this show, while you're telling your story, and you guys have got these wonderful books out. What do you want the audience to get from your story, especially other young ladies that may be going through this struggle? What do you guys want them to get from this? It doesn't matter who go first.
Well, I can start. What I would like my readers to get from my story is a few things. For one, if you're going through and managing a medical illness, that you can still live a full life. Um, and, just within the restraints of what the doctors are saying is okay for you to do, making sure that nutrition and exercise is happening so you can have the best quality of life as possible. And also, it's also information for people who are in their lives. If you have someone in your life that is managing a medical illness, like really talking about those tangible ways to show up to support them. A lot of times we like to say, let me know if you need anything. And as a person who has managed a medical illness, I can say confidently that we don't actually do that. And so just responding more tangibly, like when is your next doctor's appointment? Would you like some company as you do that? Or when are you going to the grocery store again? Can I help you carry your bags or anything that you can think of that would be more specific is so helpful. I also want my readers to read about my experiences in managing a medical illness and dating, and how I allowed my medical illness to impact my self esteem and my confidence, and how that influenced my decisions on who to date and why, so that they can read my story and learn from it so that they don't have to go through the same thing that I did. Hopefully, reading about how I handled things will help them to know what the outcome is of that, and so that they can learn that lesson without experiencing it themselves, so that they may make better decisions and kind of just view themselves in a better light despite what their medical situation is.
Dr. Witt, what do you want people to get from your story in your book?
As Somone was talking, I was trying to think about probably what is the most important thing. I think, simply you can survive what was meant to break you, and not just survive, but rise, rebuild, and redefine your life on your own terms.
Mhm.
I want them to know that their past doesn't disqualify them from their purpose. In fact, it only prepares them for it. Every tear, every betrayal, every loss, it all becomes part of your testimony. I want people to see that healing is not a destination. It's a journey, and we're all allowed to walk this journey with grace, with faith, and without apology. I want them to see behind the titles, the degrees, the successes. There's a woman who's had to fight for her peace, reclaim her identity, and choose to live out loud. And so, if my story gives someone else the courage to take off the mask, to begin their own healing, or to finally believe they're worthy, for me, I've done my job. I've gotten the story and I've gotten them to the starting point. And I just want to be their silent cheerleader to say, sis, keep going, just keep going.
Melissa?
Um, I want them to do just what my title says. I want them to know that they can claim their comeback from anything. When I say anything, I mean anything. I literally at one point almost lost everything. And so I want them to know that no matter what, and I cannot reiterate that enough. And that starts with them shifting their mindset. I had to shift my mindset. I went from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, and you have to. For me, I'm a believer. I stand on God's word. If it was not for him, I would not be where I am today. And so in my book, I even encourage people to like get in that word. So, when people say, hey, it's not looking too good for you, you can like quote those scriptures like, nope, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. When people say, man, I'll be scared if I was going through that, you can say, no, God didn't give me the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And we have to understand the mind is incredible. So when we have journeyed through much of our life doing things a certain way, we unconsciously do those things. So when you get ready to have a mind transformation and want your life transformed and claim your comeback and claim what Dr. Witt's book talks about and Dr. Simone Washington books talks about, you have to be intentional, because now you have to be conscious about shifting the way you're used to doing things. And that's work, but it's worth it. I mean, just like Dr. Washington said, it even impacted the way she was dating. I don't even think we understand the effects of things that we've gone through and how it shifts our thinking. Why do we choose to date certain people we date? We have to be honest and say, man, don't do I not feel worthy enough? And I
Right.
love to encourage people to let them know, no, you are all that in a bag of chips. Like, but again, if you don't think it, who is? So yeah, I want them to know they can claim their comeback.
Mhm. Dr. Washington, how do you hope your book will resonate with readers who are navigating their own trauma?
Well, first of all, I would commend anyone who is going through their trauma, commend them for picking up this book or picking up any book or doing anything to try to come out of that. So, first of all, you're doing a great job seeking support, even in the midst of what you're going through. And then, like we're saying, like we put all of our business out there in these books to share with you what we have been through, to be a support through our books. And so we're really hoping, all of us are hoping, that our stories can be an inspiration, can be a motivator to say, wow, if these women have survived these things, then I can do it too. Our situations may not be exactly the same, but they have been a journey. They have been, all of us have been through something that someone else did not survive. And so the Lord saw it fit to keep all of us here on this platform. And so if you're going through a trauma and you have the wherewithal to pick up these books or seek support, that means God is keeping you through it and you're doing the right thing to seek support. So my prayer would be that my story would inspire that person to know that they can get through it as well. And read something within these pages that will help them increase in their faith. I really do hope that they feel that I'm coming alongside them in whatever they're going through, and that my journey through faith and how I got through could inspire them to, in their journey of faith as well, to get through what they're going through. Just as Melissa said, you know, all three of us had to get in that word in order to get through what we went through. And so hopefully, we inspire them to do the same thing.
Wow. Melissa, can you describe a moment of breakthrough or clarity that influenced your writing?
Wow. I would say my grandmother. So my grandmother, I actually shared this story in a commencement speech that I did one year. My grandmother was a high school dropout, and I believe my grandmother was one of the wisest women, because even though she did not have a degree like I do, she taught me so much about perseverance. She taught me so much about self-love. Even though again she didn't have all these degrees. And when I was going through my traumatic season, I would say, man, I have these degrees and not feeling worthy of this and worthy of that, but yet I had a grandmother who literally, like, she was so bold and stood so tall, and she didn't even have a high school diploma. And so I would definitely say she was the person who taught me so much about who I am today. She literally built a great foundation for me and instilled so much in me. And so it was always there. I just had to dig deep, get the therapy, do the work to find where it was. So
Dr. Witt, how do you define resilience and how has it played a role in your journey?
Put myself on mute. Let's see. Can you hear me? I don't know why it's glitching. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I'm out of the country, so my connection is a little slow. How do I define resilience and how has it, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of it.
And how has it played a role in your journey?
Oh, okay, got it. Okay, so for me, resilience is quiet strength, if you will, to like rise even when everything around you, tells you to give up. And I think that that's kind of what I had to really understand what resilience was as I was on this journey. And so for me, it wasn't just about bouncing back, but it was about bouncing forward, if you will, with wisdom on how I was going to navigate differently, grace and power. Resilience is the ability to keep showing up for yourself, even when, you're tired, you don't have anybody in your corner, you're healing, you don't have the money, you don't have the answers, there's so many different things. And so resilience, it's shaped my life, Charles. It's the thread really that holds it all together. When I walked through certain things of my life, heartbreak, betrayal, when I was sick, disappointment, and just moments of self-doubt, it was really that resilience. And like my sister said, rooted in faith, that scripture, we knew what was going to get us all the way back together. And that kept me from collapsing, if you will, under the weight of it all. It taught me things like I could cry and still be strong. I could fall all the way apart, but still be called for a purpose, and that I could survive the storm and still, if you will, rise to lead others while healing. As I think about, reading the 2 books from my fellow colleagues, actually 3 from Dr. Catrena, all of them had this testimony of various aspects about grief and loss and sicknesses and relationships with mothers or fathers or lack of there was, all these different things. And so I think now reading those stories, when you're first out there on your own and you throw your story out there, it's kind of like, oh my God. But as you connect with people on this journey, connecting, with first Somone on how our books had some similarities, and just understanding that I wasn't just alone and that there's someone else that I can look to for the strength of resiliency, because I did go through my cancer journey alone. I did not tell anyone, my child, I didn't tell anyone. And it's like, there were ways in which I should have handled that differently. And then looking at her book in terms of just now how I reach out to other people that I know that are dealing with sicknesses, or not just the I'm praying for you, but stepping more into different areas. Can I go with you to your doctor's appointment? Just different things after watching her journey. Even connecting with Melissa, we had similar stories on our relationships with our mothers. And those kind of stories kept me saying like, okay, LaShawn, you're not the only one that struggled here or had this health issue or had these terrible times with your mom, like all these different things. And I'm like, okay, I'm not alone. And so those are things that propelled, if you will, how to stay in this race, how to journey, and know that if I need a push, even if it's a like on a post or an encouraging word, I've got sister authors who know this journey and who can hold me accountable. And that's very important when you are in the front, because I'll be honest, Charles, these books, and I know my sisters can attest, spiritual warfare comes from these books. People prey on you. People know your story. People, they know what to do. And it's like, God, you put me out here like I just feel like I'm on this ship, and it's like, how do you stay unrooted? How do you stay on this journey? How do you keep going? And the resiliency is the mirror of now not looking at myself, but looking at my beautiful sisters, Catrena, Somone, and Melissa, like, hey, they did it. You need this, you need them to pray, you need them to cover you. And so I think all of those are in that pot, if you will, of how to keep going and how to just put it all out there, and just go after the journey that God has put you on. So resilience is powerful, but it took me a very long time to really understand the journey and how, that's really what it is.
Let me put something else out here to you guys, because as I look at you all, and you all are strong Black women, you all are positive Black women. Black women have been doing this thing ever since the beginning. And so as you just think about, as you all are talking about your stories, and you just, like Dr. Witt just mentioned, resiliency. When you think about the times today, what is it that you think, I'm just going to say, the public in general need to learn from the strength of Black women? Let's start with you, Dr. Jones. I'm saying with Melissa.
Wow. To learn that we have all been created to be set apart. I mean, that's in the Bible, and it doesn't mean that we're better than anybody, but it means that we are different from people. And so I believe once we embrace that and we really know that, like, to do a heart check, I believe the heart is the center, and like the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks, and I'm gonna even say the mind thinks. And so you really have to look in your heart and figure out what has happened, what seeds have been sown to make you think the way you think, to make you act the way you act, and then do the work, go to therapy. All of us have. It's a good thing. You need God and a therapist. Deal with that so you can get to the root and move forward, and then really know, like, you are all of that. I am so confident, and not in a cocky way, but like we all are. And you have to know that, and you have to be unapologetic. You you have don't
There's
apologize
no
for
need
it.
for
Just
it.
don't at all. If people say, "Man, Melissa, you are very confident," and am, because I know where I once was, and it's not, that thinking didn't get me here. I call it stinking thinking. So yeah, you just have to know that God created you to be an individual. Don't try to duplicate anybody. You are who you are. Nobody can be you like you can. So be proud and be all that God has called you to be.
And Dr. Washington?
To add to what Melissa has already shared, just to observe us as a collective, it's the core values that I think people can draw from us and replicate. We, our foundation is faith, is truth, honesty, loyalty, huge hearts, love, forgiveness. Like how many times we forgive for the same things, how many times we forgive the same people, how we don't act out of how we've been treated, the way that we are able to be self aware and self regulate to save people from what they rightfully should receive from us based on how they treat us. Like we demonstrate what it means to display unconditional love in every aspect of our lives, our friendships, our work relationships, romantic relationships, family. We are the cornerstones for all of these relationships. We absorb so much, and what we give in return is love. And so then we have to go into our respective corners to replenish ourselves, a lot of times by ourselves, right? And so Melissa said, we have God, we have therapy, and I'm going to add one more, personal development, because it took all three at the same time at one point in my life in order for me to become the person that I am today. And so, yes, it looks wonderful. Yes, it looks great. Yes, it's powerful and resilient and all those things, but it took a lot of work. It took all three, the trifecta, the trinity, in order for me to become who I am today, to stand in my confidence, to use my voice, to be an advocate for others. I was always this person, but I didn't always feel comfortable living out loud, like LaShawn said. I didn't always feel comfortable using my voice in every space. And so my advice is just to observe us, love us, nourish us, and replicate the core values that we display on a daily basis.
Dr. Witt?
Those are great things, ladies. Just to tie it up, ditto everything they said. The public, as we are on this transparency journey, they need to learn. We need to learn because we're still learning that Black women, we're not just strong, we're strategic. We are spiritual. We are deeply layered. We're profoundly human. All of those different things. And for, far too long, as I'm kind of growing into this person that I am, I've seen how society has celebrated our strength, but at the same time, ignoring our struggles, but praising our resilience while, overlooking our pain and admiring, our leadership, if you will, while denying us a seat at the table. All of these different things have, you know, gone over the years, and you've sought out positions, in your careers, and all these different things, but it's because we weren't clear about our journey, right? And we didn't know what stage we were going to be on, how people were going to hear our voice. And so we, as Black women, the four of us together, we are culture creators, if you will. We're truth tellers. We're giving it to you like it is. We're healers. We've walked through a lot of journeys, and that's why our books, again, are for women that not have to go through so many of these different things. The four of us, we carry generations, if you will, of wisdom. All of our books talk about that, innovation, excellence, everything. But, we're still fighting these battles that no one sees, even today, even after we've healed from this, because like I said, the journey just gets different as we keep going. So what the world, I believe, needs to understand is that our voices are not, they're not just valuable, they're vital. See, we don't need to be saved. We need to be seen. That's the motto that I'm walking in this year. We need our stories to be heard, our leadership to be respected, and our humanity to be honored. Listen, when you truly listen to a Black woman, the four of us together, when you listen to what we're talking about, you're not hearing these individual one voices. You're hearing echoes of a legacy that we are doing right now, that we're shaping these movements, that we're changing history. We're telling stories that people would never tell in a book. We're saying things, we're getting on stages and we're talking about our book, going back to what my sisters shared in their books. They're telling stories that Black women, we ain't telling our story. People, I put things in my book like, girl. But again, if I'm going to say that I'm transparent, if I'm going to say that, hey, let me tell you where sister has some struggles at, so that you don't have to go through that. Those are the voices that are Black women that the public need to hear from, not the cute, sexy girl on Instagram that looks good in a Fashion Nova bathing suit and has 1 million followers. You got
Okay.
sisters here who are telling their stories about what's real, how we got through it and how we made it. And that
Yes.
is what the public needs to see from the 4 Black women that are on your show.
Yes. But see, I'm sorry, but I just love that. But I want to add another variable to that, is because there's so much expected for Black women to carry. And Black women have been carrying this load for like hundreds of years. So if this has been going on for hundreds of years, and there are so many people that have not got the chance to get their voices heard, what are some of the things that you suggest that needs to happen in order for them to get to that point? Because I know that there are lots and lots and lots of women that not only resonate with what you guys are speaking about, but they have these stories. What should they do?
Well, first of all, just like Dr. Witt said earlier, getting comfortable with the word no, right? So in order to make space for the things that you want to do, you have to say no to the things that you don't want to do, and the things that people are guilting you into doing, the things that you feel obligated to do when you actually don't have an obligation to do those things. And so it may even be a situation where, yes, you are used to carrying this weight and this load, and then you say no more. This was never mine to carry in the first place. Like, who said I needed to carry this? And so I won't. And so that's where that self-awareness comes in. That's where that self-regulation comes in. We do need to take time of reflection to really reflect on how are we spending our time, and are we spending our time out of obligation, out of guilt, or is this something that you really want to do? Is this something that you're called to do? And if there's anything, because that's the one thing that we can't get back, right? It's time. We can make money, lose money, make it again, no problem. Time, that's it. So really taking that time to reflect on how you're spending your time, and if it's something that you want to do, if you want to write your story, if you want to share your story in a blog, or on a podcast, or whatever your creative outlet is, make the space to do it in your life. And if you feel like you don't have time, well, how are you spending your time, and what are the areas where now is the time to say no to those things so that you can say yes to this project?
Melissa?
And just to add to what's already been said, we have to be honest with ourselves. One time somebody was sharing why they couldn't fulfill their desires, what they wanted to do. And for whatever reason, I heard just excuses. And they were talking about, like, well, this person owes me this and this person did that and they owe me that. And I finally just stopped her and I said, you owe you. Like, we always want to make all these excuses, but we owe ourselves. We all get the same amount of hours every day. And we have to be honest and say, how can this person accomplish this and I'm still here? Well, like Dr. Somone said, you have to reflect and say, what are you doing it with your time? You can't, if you have a goal you want to reach, you have to discipline yourself. You can't do everything. I went through seasons where I'm sure people were wondering, like, if I still lived in the US, just because you didn't see me out at, all these galas and functions because I was on my grind. I had things that I wanted to accomplish, and I knew if it was gonna be, it was up to me. And so that's when I started seeing momentum. So you just have to be disciplined. You can't be going out and kicking it all the time, and hold yourself accountable and stop making excuses. I'm serious. I made my kids memorize a poem when they were, and they may have been elementary. Don't judge me, y'all. They may have been elementary, that said, excuses are monuments of nothingness that build bridges to nowhere. And those that use those tools of incompetence result to nothing, if anything at all.
Amen.
And that's facts. So stop making excuses. You owe you. Boo. Love you.
Dr. Witt?
I love that. I need to memorize that poem. So a Black woman, she can get her voice heard by first believing that her voice matters, right? Not because someone gave her permission, but because her truth carries this weight, this power, legacy, if you will. So we get our voices heard by speaking up, even when our knees are shaking, by telling our stories in rooms like we are, that were never built for us. We're sitting on tables, we're doing podcasts, we're doing our own thing, we're building our own platform. Whether it's by our books, some of us are in boardrooms, some of us are in the pulpit, some of us do our own podcasts. We're doing all kinds of stuff amongst our group. So we get heard, anyone listening to this, when we stop shrinking to fit into systems that were never designed to hold our brilliance. And where I'm at right now, instead of creating a space in their atmosphere, I'm creating my own space where my own voice is not just heard, but it's amplified. See, there's a difference between your voice being heard and your voice being amplified. And most importantly, when we get our voices heard by supporting one another, as you see here, this is not a competition on who sells the most books amongst the 4 authors. This is women who are coming together with our love for helping women to walk into their purpose, to heal. We may be bonded in a sorority, but we still have a love and a passion to empower women. And this is the definition of when one Black woman rises, she creates spaces for others to rise with her. Some of us may be gifted in details, organization, scheduling. Some of us may be detailed in running their mouth too much. Whatever it may be, our collective power here is unstoppable. Why? Because we're walking in alignment, authenticity, and audacity.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Dr. Witt, tell us, what challenges did you face in sharing your personal story, and how did you overcome them?
I think probably one of the most important challenges is that, hurtfully so, I had to let relationships go. And I had to, going back to something I shared earlier, I had to make a decision by choosing myself. And again, I've been using this word return on investment because it's, Melissa's into numbers. This is her lingo of what she talks. But it has a different meaning for me right now in this season. When I'm invited to something, when I'm asked to be on a committee, when I'm asked to do this, plan this, do this, I am now looking at what is the return? Because I give so much. I'm the cleanup person. Oh, I'll just pay for this. I'll do this. All of those different things came out of writing this book, because here I am writing this book and I'm telling people how I got through this pain, how I got through this moment, how I got through these issues. But am I practicing that? So when someone looks at my life, is she practicing what she's saying in this book? And so the challenge for me was, you got to write the story. You got to detail the healing, but you also have to show it when you're in front. And so for me, it has now been, okay, LaShawn, you got to say no. You can't talk to this person anymore. You got to block this person on social media. Whatever it is that I have to do to create these boundaries, I know now that writing that book, those were challenges that were preparing me to how I was going to move forward in life. And of course, the last thing was reliving some of the pain of things that I went through, even putting pen to paper to tell stories. I'll give you this example. I write about a situation that happened with me in my professional career over 20 years ago. I did something that was so stupid that cost me to lose my entire career. Several years ago, before I wrote the book, I watched people who I called my friends, my sisters, my family members, people that I'm in organizations with, come up with things that I could not believe were said about me. And I was just like, what? Like, it just didn't make any sense. And I'm like, where do people get this stuff from? And as I was writing the story, I said, I'm not going to tell this part. And I said, you know what? Now I'm going to tell this part, because at the end of the day, it's my story. But do you know the level of freedom that I got from that? I canceled my connections with those people that I was like, no, this is my big sister. She's the one that looks after me. She's the one that, did this for me. But that was the sister who stabbed me in my back, who pulled papers, who did this, who spread my information. That wasn't true. Those are the things that I had to let go because I was harboring negativity. Listen, I was like, I'm going to end people. Now, that's one thing about me that I've been delivered from, Charles. I know how to end people, but God has brought me a long way from that. Let me tell you, he be testing me sometimes. Because I be like, oh, no. And there are days where I have to go shut in somewhere because I'd be like, that old LaShawn, she'll just come out in 5 seconds. But those were the challenges that I had, because it was like, no, LaShawn, you got to tell people how to, when folks are talking about you, help them. Because the scripture says, and this when stuff is in the scripture about how God will use your enemy to prepare a table, that scripture didn't mean nothing until I got to this point. I said, oh, this is how I talk to God. Oh, they're talking about in the Bible. You was going to use my enemies for a foot. That's what you're talking about. I literally have to have those kind of conversations when I was writing my book. Okay, so those challenges did come, but it was the strategy that I needed to show people, this is what I went through. This is how I got through it. And nobody can tell your story better than who? You. That's it.
Yes. Melissa, how do you approach the balance between sharing personal pain and inspiring hope to your readers?
Wow. You know what? I don't think I balance it. I believe before writing this book, I tried to, but like LaShawn said, once we're honest and we tell our own stories, what can people say? I think that's part of some people's struggles. I don't want people to know about that. And if they do, so what? Be free. I think that's one of those chains that we're in. So now I don't find balance, because I know what my story, how my story has helped rather other people, even men. I do retreats, and I only do them for women, and I've even had men say, when are you going to start a retreat for men? I haven't been called to the men. But I know what me being authentic has done for people, and that's no balance at all. At all. It is, it is what it is. And you can see my life is definitely a testimony to the goodness of God. And so I tell people and pray that they can be loosed, if you will, from the chains, and be free, so they can be all that God has created them to be. It's good on this side.
There you go. Dr. Washington, what challenges did you face in being vulnerable and honest in your writing?
Well, I kind of shared that it was hard to write about the romantic relationships. And so going into detail about some of those scenarios. And so one of the experiences that I share in the book is that I was dating a young man when I got diagnosed, and I was in the hospital. Um, I had just recently gotten my diagnosis, so I was in the hospital being treated. And he came to the hospital, and I was like, oh, he came to see me to see how I'm doing. That's so sweet. But actually, he came to ask me if he could borrow my car. And so I know him to be, not necessarily an alcoholic, but likes to drink, likes to smoke weed. So it would be irresponsible of me to let this person borrow my car because I pretty much know how that's going to end, right? So I said no to him, and his words to me were, F you, B, I hope you die in here. And he stormed
Oh,
off. And so I shared that story. I shared how devastated I was. And this was the same person that I had showed up for a lot of different times in a lot of different situations. So it hurts even more that this type of betrayal happens from someone that you've invested in, in that way. And so, I mean, I wasn't excited about sharing that. It's quite embarrassing, to be honest. I don't think I've ever shared that with anybody before in my life. And this was something that I thought was important to share because I know that this is a lightweight situation compared to what some other women have gone through, in their lives. And so I can't present part of the story. I can't present the flowers and the butterflies. I got to present the manure as well. And so I wasn't excited about sharing it, but it's part of my story. And so I had to share it. And so, whatever, because I don't know what parts of my story would resonate with others. And so I had to tell the whole story.
wow.
So there were a lot of scenarios in my story that were not the best, that I may not have shared, with anyone before, or maybe I only shared with one other person. And now it's in the book. And like Dr. Witt said earlier, it's like once it's out there, you're like, ooh, it's really out there. Like people are going to read this and what are they going to think? And the truth of the matter is, as I'm getting feedback, from people, my focus is on like the medical illness and how I got through it. But a lot of women are saying to me that they resonated with the parts about the romantic relationships because they have been through something similar. So then what if I had not added that to the book because I was trying to protect myself from embarrassment or whatever? And so yeah, it was difficult, but it had a reason, it had a meaning, and maybe that was part of why I experienced it in the first place, was to share it with others as part of my
Oh,
testimony.
wow. Now you know what? Now you definitely got to give me some pointers because I've actually started writing part one of my autobiography, and I'm kind of afraid.
Okay,
That
congratulations.
so
Yeah.
but the strength.
Hmm.
Did you like feel like people would just be maybe looking at you crazy, or what was your self-talk in that whole process?
Yes, I went through all of those emotions. I went through like, oh my gosh, people are gonna think that just they could just run all over me. I'm just a pushover, and I thought all the things, and so I was just like, that whole romantic relationship section, I avoided that thing like the plague for weeks. Uh, you know, up until that point, every deadline that my book coach had given me, I had made or beat the deadline. And so when I'm spending weeks on this section, and she's like, "Hey, where's my stuff?" Like, and then we had to have that conversation. And so yeah, no, I wasn't excited about it. I went through the range of emotions. I broke down in tears because so the truth of the matter was, part of the reason why I didn't want to write is because I didn't want to go back to those
Right.
places. I felt that if I allowed myself to go back to remember those things, that I would somehow regress and lose the progress that I had made through therapy and through prayer, through my faith and through my personal development. I thought that somehow I would lose all of that if I'm going back to think, because it's not just thinking about what happened, it's like you're reliving it in order to tell the story in the way that it happened. And I was so afraid that I would regress and become that person again, that that's what I was trying to avoid. And so it was through my conversation with my book coach, who happens to be Dr. Catrena Elliott, by the way. Um, she was really great about walking me through how, first of all, that's not what's going to happen. Like, you've done a lot of work on yourself and you will still be that girl, you know, just write it down, it's important for others. She was like, if you keep the focus on the fact that you are helping other people through telling this part of your story, then, that's really what helped me get through it. So she's like, this is not about you. This is about all of the people you're helping by sharing this part of your story. And so once she said that, that's something that I could hold on to and focus on to get me through writing that part of the story. And so that would be my advice to you as well. It's like, just keep focused on all of the people that can be helped by reading the things that were the most difficult for you to write.
Wow. Oof, that's heavy. That is heavy. I'm just telling you. Oh boy. I don't know, but I feel that, because it's kind of like, when you jump on two sides, you're like, okay, yeah, you're gonna put this out there, but then it's like, oh no, I don't know about that. So it's kind of like it's written, but I mean, like, I don't know if I don't know. When it comes out, I mean, you guys get a chance to read part one, but I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it's appreciative to hear the strength, and just the feelings and how you guys like just push forward with that. I don't see, that's why women are stronger than men. So I don't know, that's pretty tough, but I definitely appreciate that, because I don't know, I guess sometimes when you think people gonna look at you kind of crazy, that's all I'm thinking about. Like, oh my God, what are people gonna say when they read this? What is that like? Like,
Yeah.
really? um
I think what you'll find, though, I think that it will be less about people looking at you a certain way and more about, oh my gosh, someone else went through this also. And so they'll be running up to you to say, thank you so much for sharing that, because I went through something similar. And they'll be asking you more questions about how you got through it. So you'll have more of that than anybody looking at, because people understand the context of, this was a period of your life that happened already, and you're a different person now because of it. So, people do have that context. And so I think it will be more of people being grateful to have someone else to relate to on those points, and they'll be asking you for advice on how you got through it.
Dr. Witt, how do you hope your book will impact readers who may be experiencing similar struggles as you?
I think just overall, the message is just, you're going to get through. You're going to make it. You're going to survive. You're going to prosper. So many different messages, but I hope that as they're reading it, they know that they read my heart behind why I shared what I shared, how I got through it, how sometimes you have to be alone, separate yourself, change careers, find new friends, leave the man. It's all kind of stuff you're going to learn. So I think, just that you can make it and you can get through, because I didn't have people on the other side to tell me, you're going to make it, you're going to get through, things are going to be okay. It just didn't work out like that for me, but I was always there for everyone else, supporting everyone else, cheering everyone else on, being there for them. That I missed a crucial step, and that was being there for myself. And it started at a young age of trying to be this fixer, be this person who, will make everything all right. Going after my mother at a young age to try to help her push against her drug problems and rescuing her, trying to keep my parents together. It started at a young age for me. So hopefully, as the reader is reading, they will also come to that point of, how did I get here? What did I do? It's okay if it was not the best way, or if it was wrong, or you shouldn't have done this, or whatever it may be, but how did I get here? That's the first most important thing. So it's not just about how did she get through it? What was the journey? What did she do? Because everybody's story and journey is going to be different. But most importantly, how did it start? How do you address it? And how do you move past it? And how, most importantly, do you forgive yourself? I think that's the biggest piece of it, is forgiving yourself, letting go. I didn't do right. I make mistakes, whatever that might be. And how do I push past those kinds of, trauma experiences that you have to deal with? I think that for me, that's the most important thing that I would like to hear feedback, hear other great testimonies, read stories such as yours in the making. But how did something that I wrote on one of those 300 something pages, what did I write that helped you say, this is what I need to do to get past that?
Dr. Washington, how has your understanding of healing evolved throughout your journey?
So, at the age of 24 years old, I was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure. My kidneys were working collectively at 10%. I was a woman of faith at that time, but I was afraid for my life. I thought I was going to die, and I didn't know what to do. When I started dialysis, my dialysis technicians were people of faith, and they spoke faith over me. They spoke positive over me, saying that the Lord would heal me, and they continued to do that. My family and my friends, they were praying for me, and knowing that I had that type of support, like over time, it built my faith in this situation to the point where I could then speak positive over myself and, believe the Lord for my healing as well. And so my story is a journey through faith. I was 24 at the time that this started, and this was like the first real test of my faith. And in the beginning, I failed miserably. And but I think this is a good example of why God says that we are to live in community and we are to fellowship with each other, because when we don't have faith enough for ourselves in certain situations, we have other people who are full of faith, who have enough to share until our faith is built to withstand the situation. And so healing for me looks different because it was a specific medical situation. To make a long story short, the Lord did heal me through a kidney transplant 5 years after my diagnosis. And so healing for me came in the form of a kidney transplant. Healing for me came in the form of developing faith through a situation. And healing for me came in the form of understanding that God puts us through things so that we have a testimony to share with others, so that we can help them on their healing journey. And the things that we go through is not meant for us to keep quiet or be embarrassed about, or just not to share with people. It is our testimony, and the word says that we are obligated to share that with others so that we can add to his kingdom. And so we heal through the community that is each other by sharing our stories. And so this is another encouragement for you, Charles, to get that book on out, because I'm sure you have powerful testimonies in your journey as well.
I do. Especially when I died. Seriously. Melissa, What was the most challenging part of writing your book, and how did you overcome it?
Ooh, the most challenging part of writing my book was writing the real, authentic story because it involved family, and that was scary for me. I did not want to offend anyone. I didn't want to upset anyone, and I definitely wanted to share my story to help people. But I knew there was a chance that I was taking, right? Because you know how people are like, don't be putting our business out there. Especially Black people. Y'all know the saying, what happened in this house stays in this house. And so I was concerned about that. I did have conversations with those individuals that are in the book prior to the book being published. A matter of fact, I interviewed them just to make sure my recollection of some things was in alignment with what actually occurred. So that was very scary for me. It did cause, some people to not agree with me publishing the book. Um, and I chose to do so. And I tried to bring those individuals on the journey with me. When I made international bestselling author, it gave me an opportunity to get on platforms like NBC, ABC, Fox. And so I wanted them to come on that journey with me because, again, I just felt, man, how many other people have our story? And how many people can we help who share a similar story? So that was my sole purpose for writing the book. And what was the second part? So that was what was challenging.
Okay, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, I overcame it because, again, it goes back to my heart. My sole purpose of writing this book was to help people. I felt that I was the only one who had this type of experience. And even when I started talking with Dr. LaShawn Witt, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have similar stories in this certain situation. And so I'm sure there are thousands of us out there. And I wrote it because I wanted people to know, like, you are not alone. Like, I wanted my book to serve as a mirror and guide for women who've experienced, those deep wounds of being treated unfairly by people who were put in our lives to mold us, to protect us. And I wanted them to understand, like, I understand your rejection, the abandonment, the emotional neglect, and I don't want them to carry those individual scars into adulthood, like I did. And if they're already adults, okay, but let's deal with it and let's move to the next season where you're not carrying that. I didn't want them to question their worth and struggle to trust people or even trust themselves. So I just knew by sharing my story, I wanted women to see that they were not alone. I wanted them to know that their pain is valid because I didn't feel like my pain was valid for many years. I wanted them to know that their pain doesn't have to define them. Um, yeah, I want them to process their pain and break the silence and break the shame and recognize the patterns, and yeah, you have that abundant life.
So, just a follow up to that, how has your personal journey shaped your perspective on trauma and healing?
How has my personal journey changed my perspective of trauma
Shaped,
and healing?
shaped your.
Shaped it.
Mhm.
Oh man. I've done a total 180. It's amazing when you get to the core of why you respond the way you respond, why you think the way you think, and now you are thinking healthy, responding healthy. Even with the boundaries, I know Dr. Simone Washington talked about you have to learn to forgive, and you do, because man, you holding on to something is like you drinking poison want the other person who offended you or hurt you to die. And I want people to understand, because when I say that, sometimes when I say that from a platform, sometimes I get these looks like, you got to be kidding me. Now you want me to, like, forgive this person who caused all this trauma, and the level of some of our trauma is really deep. But I let people know, you forgive them for you. And forgiveness does not mean re-entry. We have to stop. I don't know who said that, especially in the church. Like, forgiveness does not mean re-entry. And for my church folk out there, before y'all come for me, God shows us that all the way in Genesis. He told Adam and Eve not to eat the apple. They ate the apple, and he kicked them out the garden. So he said, I still love you, but I'm gonna love you from out there, because y'all not following directions. And so I had to learn to do that. Like, I forgive people, like, wholeheartedly. So if I see them, I can speak. Now, I may not hold a whole conversation with you because I don't care to, but I don't have any hatred or anything where I can't even part my lips and speak and be cordial. But I'm gonna love you from out there, like I told them. So again, forgiveness does not mean re-entry, but you need to forgive and not hold that hatred in your heart.
Dr. Witt, what role did your support system play in your healing process?
I keep forgetting I need to come off of mute. What role did my support system? I think there were so many different facets of different things that, I went through, and a lot of things that I openly share. But my support system was absolutely, in some aspects essential to the healing process. There were moments when I couldn't even pray for myself, Charles. I would just fall out and cry. And there were times where I just needed people to come lay hands on me, to come pray. I was in the hospital, my third attempt to suicide. I made my way about 20 miles. I drove myself, barely any clothes on, no shoes, no ID, no phone. I got in the car, drove myself. I don't even know how I got there. And I was at a grocery store, and there was, I guess, I write about it in the book. There was this moment where I met God in the grocery store. I fell, cut my foot on the freezer aisle because I had ran myself into the glass door that you open up in the freezer section. And I fell on the floor, and God came before me. And somehow somebody figured it out. They called 911. Eventually I would find this out because I was out of it, and took me to a hospital. And there was a nurse who was a member of my sorority. I don't even know who this woman was. She came into the room and she played gospel music from her phone. I remember the visions of that. And she was praying for me, because they didn't know who to contact for like the first 2 or 3 days, because I didn't have a phone. I didn't have anything. She knew who I was. I didn't even know. And I don't even know who she is to this day. I never saw her again. So sometimes I believe in, it's just guardian angels that God just poof and they gone. And I remember laying there because they had me strapped because I was on a suicide watch, and I was crying and crying and crying, but nothing would come out of my mouth. I knew what I needed to do, but I didn't know what to do. And she played music and she prayed over me. And I'll never forget that, because when I doubted my worth, and when the weight of my past felt so heavy to carry, it was the people that just God placed. It wasn't the people that I was looking for. It wasn't the people that I expected. It wasn't the people that I kept saying, I need help. Whether it was those people that kind of came through the journey, they reminded me of who I am. I did have one spiritual mentor who spoke earlier in the show about the therapist that helped me to untangle my emotions. Each person played a different part, if you will. But these weren't people that I knew to be there when I was going through it. They created a space for me to be vulnerable without judgment and just basically to fall apart without fear. I needed to fall apart. That was the only way that God was going to rebuild me at his pace and put me back together again, right? So my support system reminded me that I didn't have to be strong like I always was. And at that time, I was jacked up. I mean, I planned out how it was going to happen. Everything was ready to go. There was no way I should be sitting here 9,000 miles away from my home sharing this story, because everything was done and I woke up and I don't even know how I got to where I got to. But that's the one testimony that I speak on often about. When people try to take their lives, they're successful. I tried 3 times. That's why I know I don't know who I'm here for. I don't know what all I'm supposed to be doing, but I owe God the rest of my life to use my voice, to use my story, to help people. And that kind of unconditional presence that I had in my life gave me permission to, one, heal deeply, not just functionally, so that I can help somebody else that's going to deal with something similar. So that's that.
Oh, wow. Dr. Washington, what role has faith and spirituality played in your healing process?
And so, as I shared earlier, when I first got my diagnosis, my faith was very low. And it was the community of people that gathered around me who had more faith at that time over my situation that helped me through it. So I really thank those people, and I encourage others to keep the faith and to always share their faith with other people. The pastor mentioned this past Saturday, it's like that's one of the reasons that we're commissioned to come to church and fellowship, is because some people walk in there barely making it in, having no faith for themselves, and they get placed right next to someone who's full of faith. And by the time we all leave, the goal is that we all be full of faith. And so I am just grateful for those people who stay full of faith and who are always full of faith and willing to share that with others, because that's what helped me through my situation. And I think it was important for me to be honest, because I'm not one of those people that grew up in church. You know, my parents, were made to go to church several times a week. And so when they became adults, they said, we're not making our kids go. And they didn't. They taught me about God. They read the Bible to me. They told me to memorize the 23rd Psalm. But they said, if you want to go to church, you can do that. We're not going to stop you. We're just not going to take you. And so I think it was important to represent this population of people who didn't grow up in church and how they found their own way to faith, and just tell that story, because I don't know that a lot of people are honest about that. Some people, once they have their faith and once they are in church and maybe they have a title in church, and then that's who they are. And a lot of people are not honest about how they got to be that person. And so I thought it was important for me to share that not everyone grows up in the faith in the same way. And so I thought it was also important for me to share being honest about not having a lot of faith in the beginning of my journey in this medical illness, because I want people to know that it's a human response. If you're afraid first, if you're scared first, if you think that you might die, like that's the human response to some things that might happen, and it's okay, because that is true for a lot of people. And sometimes our society makes us feel that we are not children of God, or we are not faith filled if we have that initial human response to things. And so I just thought it was important to share how I honestly felt in the beginning so that people will know that if they felt similarly about some devastating news, that that was okay. It was normal. And how I developed faith, through my situation with the help of others.
Melissa, what role does storytelling play in the healing process, both for you and your readers?
Will you repeat that, Charles?
What role does storytelling play in the healing process, both for you and your readers?
Wow. Well, I'm going to preface what I'm about to say with it depends on the story that we tell ourselves. I believe that we end up um kind of in a dysfunctional living dysfunctional internally because we don't tell ourselves the right story. um and I think we do that as a protection mechanism. I know I did. I was the first, prior to me getting therapy and going through my journey of healing, to just say, well, I don't care. If somebody hurt me, especially like somebody that was close to me, I'd be like, whatever, I don't care. But I did care. And so I believe sometimes, again, it just depends on what story we're telling each other. But my prayer is that the women and even men, because I've had several men who've purchased my books and they reach out to tell me what they got from it, and they buy it for their moms, aunts, sisters. So my prayer is that anyone who buys this book, um and sees my story, will first tell their true authentic story. My prayer is that they'll feel seen, feel strengthened, feel supported, um, and that they truly believe that healing is possible. Sometimes we say we believe stuff and then our actions show different, that we don't. And I really want them to know that healing is possible no matter the age. I don't care if you in your 80s, 90s, if you are still breathing, and like, it's possible. And it's possible because you are looking at three ladies here who have been through. Do you hear me? And so know that if you all can see us, hear our story, go buy our book so you can read our stories, know that if it happened for us, we walked a similar road. Like, it can happen for you. But you got to be honest and tell your authentic story. No cap. I think that's what the young folks say. My kids say no cap. So
Dr. Washington, can you discuss a particular chapter or theme in your book that is especially meaningful to you?
Yes, I would say the last chapter is meaningful to me. It's all about the human connection aspect of my story. And it really talks about the importance of becoming an eye, organ, and tissue donor and what that means, especially for the Black community. We are among the highest in need, but we are among the lowest number of donors. And so, what it means to be a donor is that at the end of your life, you've lived your life to the fullest, and at the end of your life, you're saying yes. It's okay for you to use parts of me that will help others to extend their lives, give them a second chance at life in the same way that someone did for me. It also explains the importance of making that decision for yourself so that in that moment we're not putting our family members in a situation where they have to both grieve the loss and also make this type of decision in the same moment. And so making that decision for yourself sharing that information with your family is important. I try to do my best to dispel a lot of the apprehensions that people, especially of color, have about signing up to become donors. And I hope it to be an educational tool to enlighten people about the process, to answer questions that they might have about it, and encourage them to really consider becoming a donor, because without it, I wouldn't be here talking with you on this platform today.
Dr. Witt, can you discuss a specific chapter or passage in your book that holds deep personal significance to you? You
I don't know
muted.
why that keeps clicking itself off. As I was sitting here, I'm muted again.
No, you're good.
Am
I
I
can hear
muted?
you now. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me? Okay, okay. And sorry about the delay. The Wi-Fi isn't the best where I'm at. One of the chapters, let's see, that holds probably the most significance is the unraveling of the chapter that I did in the beginning. It's the moment where, everything that I thought I had neatly held together began to fall apart. I talked earlier about my relationships, my identity, my faith. And so that chapter, that section, because my book is in parts, it was very raw and painful because it was so deeply personal. And writing that chapter, it felt, as you going back to one of the questions you asked earlier, it felt like I was reopening a wound, if you will. But it was honestly the chapter that I really had to write heavy about, because that was the beginning of my true healing. I talk about, in that feeling unseen, if you will, if feeling unseen and forgotten, and how I was questioning the version of myself that I had built for this world, what I thought was the version of myself. I knew at that point, after I was going through and writing certain things out, I knew in that specific chapter that that was not the real me that I lived. And I finally was able to say, wow, you were damaged. You had emotionally and physically hit rock bottom, but I was able to encounter God um, in a new way, because I had learned how to persevere. So I was no longer fixing stuff, but I was present with my Father, just in worship and praying, who was able to heal me from my brokenness. And, this chapter, as I think about it, is significant because it marks the turning point. But oftentimes when we read stories or we hear people's stories, they don't really get knee deep into what it was that they went through. It's kind of surface, kind of the surface issues we hear about. And one of the things that I appreciated too about my sister authors is that, we shared so much, and we were we were vulnerable, and we shared things that most people won't get up and share. So as I think about it now, I appreciate how that chapter unfolded so many different things, because it was like, you're going to get the real. This is the real. When you read in the book, I'm not covering up anything. I mean, I got a copy of the book. I always keep one with me when I'm doing interviews. And I was just reading a section while you were talking. I was like, I forgot I put that in there. But you sometimes you have to go back and look at some of that stuff, because it's like, did I really put that in there? But again, it's the vulnerability. And I'll say this, one of the things that I've dealt with that I know is very common with women, when you are a strong leader, you're alpha leader, you running stuff, you're a boss, you got businesses making money. The one area where we can become most vulnerable and connect is our area to seek who God has for us as a mate, as a covering. And where I'm at right now in ministry and the things that I'm doing at 48, because see, I'm older than some of y'all probably. I don't know. But where I'm at, it's like, God, I'm the wedding planner. I've planned hundreds of weddings, and I've put together these love stories. And I'm like, God, you forgot about me. But I knew that that was a connection that I had to share, the journey that God had me on, where he had me studying couples in the Bible, how he had me making outlines. God actually took me through a season where I studied every couple in the Bible, and I wrote about this in the book, every lesson that I needed to know to become a wife. And a lot of people hit me up all the time, and they're like, you like shared that? And it's not this desperation of wanting to be married, because that's how people make us feel like, oh, they just desperate to have a man. Like, I can have a man if I want one. That ain't a problem. But I want the man that God has for me, the man that is called to cover me. You know, you can get sex from anywhere. All I got to do is open up my DMs. That ain't hard to get. But I want the man that's going to pray over. I mean, let's be real talk. Well, this is real talk. This, I know it's called American Black and White, but I'm gonna give you some real talk. But it's, you need a man who will cover you. You need a man who will pray over you. When I'm done witnessing or ministry or whatever, I need my husband to cover me in prayer. I need him to lay hands on me and speak over me as I'm going out. When you walk heavily in an anointing, a prophetic anointing, and God has given you things to do or things to say or things to give corporately, that's weighty, Charles. That's, you know, you come out of ministry and you're like, Lord, who's covering me? But those are the things that I had to go and study. As I mean, yeah, I knew a wife, you're supposed to do this, but God had to take me farther, deeper into, okay, yeah, that's a wife stuff, but this is some other things that you have to know what it is to be a wife, you know, to this man that God has called me to marry. And so I spent a lot of time developing that chapter after I wrote The Unraveling, because I made poor decisions on the men that I was with. I was sleeping with 1, 2, 3 men. I was the other woman. I was doing this. I was flying people across the country and buying fancy gifts and whining and I was doing all of those things because I wanted to be loved. I'm a daddy's girl, and my father treats me to this day as the woman I should be treated as. My father is the man who has shown me what it is, not just my earthly father, but my heavenly father, the type of woman that I am and the man that is called to cover me. So many women deal with that. Women deal with, I'm 48, I'm 45, I'm waiting for my husband. I've dated this man. Somone shared how she went through a traumatic health experience, and this man who was called in her mind to love her and take care of her comes to the hospital and says, I want to borrow your car, when she's laying in her deathbed trying to figure out if she's going to make it. Melissa talked about, you know, her divorce and having to go through the grief of that. Catrena shared about her relationships. It's the connection that we as women were able to share. We're not married, but we are wives in waiting. We are women just like the women who will read our books, like, sis, you ain't got to give it to him. You ain't got to hang out with him. Those, for me to talk like this today, I made excuses for men to say it was okay to mistreat me. It was okay to have another woman. I made a place in my life where I felt, okay, at least I got a man. He may be married or he may be in a relationship. Those were the things that I thought were okay because I needed what I called a piece of a man. So when God is putting me in front of women, I'm sharing that I have been celibate for 11 years. I have not had sex for 11 years, but I need to tell the entire story to say how I got there, because it ain't easy talking about you being celibate for 11 years. There's some days, God, I'm off this journey because I'm done with it. But you have to be honest with women. And women, when they come to listen to us, they want honesty and transparency. They don't want the, yeah, I waited for a man. I did this, I did. That's not true, sis. You need to talk about the journey. So that unraveling piece really helped me in that chapter to share those things openly. I got the same trauma that you have from men. I've got the same desires that you want, but there is an expectation that, God, you said that you were going to give me the desires of my heart. And you said that you have a kingdom man for me. And I just have to wait. Now, hopefully I ain't got to keep waiting much longer. You know, that's my little gripe with God. Like, hello. But, you know, at the end of the day, those are things that I wanted to make sure that I shared with those readers that will pick up the book and read it.
Melissa, how do you handle vulnerability when discussing your experiences with others?
I just put it all out there. I think Dr. LaShawn Witt just summed it up great. Um, you have to, people need to understand that they can relate to you, and you sugarcoating stuff, we get enough of that. We get enough of that on social media. We get enough of that actually everywhere. And so, like Dr. LaShawn said, it's just putting it all out there. Like, this is my crap, if you will. You know, I did go through a season of a divorce, and it was very traumatic. Um, I went through another season where I, just to put it out there, I literally got dumped a few weeks, about 10 weeks from being married, remarried. And so I know, right, Charles? And
Oh,
so when we share like our experiences, like, yes, this happened to me. Wedding dresses, wedding party, the whole nine, and just, yeah. But it happens. And I'm sure
right.
I'm not the only one. I'm sure there are hundreds, if not thousands, of women who have a similar situation, and they need to understand, like, sis, you are not out there by yourself. Like, yes, we have gone through some real stuff here, and that's why it's so important for us to be authentic and genuine and vulnerable, um because we know what doing that has done for our lives. Like, there was a time where I could be like, okay, I'm done. I'm done dating. I'm done. You know, I'm cool. I'm cool. I'm blessed. I'm just gonna live my life, do me. But that's not my heart's desire. But after going through a horrible divorce, and then uh weeks from thinking I was about to remarry and that not happening, some people would be like, oh, I'm done. Matter of fact, I have a childhood friend that was like, oh, I would be so done, but I'm not. And it's only because I'm healed, and now I don't look at those seasons um like they were lessons. That's how I look at it. And I don't think we ever lose if we learn. And I've learned from all of those experiences. I've learned, okay, in dating, don't like that, may not be a life partner. So let's just cut that. Like, you cool, I'm cool, but you're not for me. And I think what we do sometimes in our polluted minds, or our just stuff we haven't dealt with, we'll be like, oh, I know he or she does that, but you know what, we like make these excuses. No, stop. Or, you know, you want somebody who tall, and then but you meet somebody who may be 5'5", but you be like, but he nice, he got a great career. Sis, you don't like short people. Why are you even gonna put yourself through that if you're not attracted to him? If you want tall, but then now you gonna get on your knees and be looking at your boy because he's so short. Like, stop. We I'm just saying, Charles, we do that. Like, this is real. This stuff is happening.
Oh,
I'm like, sis, he 5'5". You like 6'1" or taller. I know he
you,
nice. But he need to be nice for somebody else
but
who
you
likes
know,
short
but
men.
so just in saying that though, because there are a lot of women that I guess they go through what they say is the compromise. So, what do you think
Mhm.
make them do that compromise when they know that's not what they want?
I believe it's because we truly don't, and I'm going to speak from a biblical perspective. I believe we truly don't believe God said what he
Mm,
said. Like, literally, I spoke at a church, not to, it was the end of last year, and I remember saying, I have not seen so many believing unbelievers. And what I mean is, We will go to church. We'll listen to pastors preach. We'll take notes. We got 4 pages of notes when we leave. We gonna amen and shanana and then leave and do the same thing. It doesn't make sense. And so we have to believe that God said what he said. So if you really believe that, like, stop settling. Just know it's not your time yet, and it's all good. So that's how I look at dating now. Like, it doesn't mean that man is bad. That just may mean that that man is not compatible with Melissa, and that's okay. And we need to, like, stop settling when we know that's not what we want. Maybe the divorce rate would go down if we stop doing that.
Oh, you know what? You hit on a whole bunch of truths just then. In closing, I'd like to have each of you give a closing statement. For our audience, some words of wisdom, some encouragement, some things about where they can find your book. Just whatever you'd like for them to know. Let's start with you, Melissa.
Let's see. Something I can leave for the people. I would say, if I could leave anything with you, it would be to, I'm gonna say a lot. I was gonna choose a few words. Start today and do it afraid. And what I mean by that is, I don't think you're ever really ready to say, you know what, I'm ready to deal with my crap. I'm ready to, like, it's not pretty. I know we probably make it look like it is, but it's not. Um, there were many days and nights where I cried because it does hurt. And even I don't remember exactly how you put this, Dr. Washington, but I think she said something like, especially in the church, sometimes we think we shouldn't feel. And that is, I don't know where people get these myth truths from, because even when Jesus realized it was his time to be crucified, like, he felt that. Like, it is in the word. He said, my God, like, if you can, please take this cup away from me. But then he said, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And so I will say, like, start today. Start today on your healing journey. Do it afraid. Even if you're afraid, do it, because I'm telling you, it's so much better on this side. It's so much better on the healing side. Start doing your due diligence. Find a therapist, and if you find one that you don't feel like you all are compatible, find another one. Going to therapy is like dating. I think I went through 3 before I was like, okay, I can relate to this sister right here. So, but you have to take the steps. Get you I'm gonna say, I call it a board. I sit on a lot of boards for companies. Get you a board of people that's gonna be honest with you, not just food. I'm gonna say food fuzz you, meaning, just gonna tell you what you want to hear. Like, I had some people that was like, yeah, Melissa, that, like, your stuff stank, and when you do this, that stinks. So get you, surround yourself with people who are gonna tell you in love things that you can work on. But do it, and do it afraid, and start today.
Dr. Washington.
My word of advice is to just keep the faith, and just remember that whatever it is you're going through, there is another side to get through, that you will get through it. And if you hold on long enough, the Lord will show you the reason that you went through it and how it's going to help someone else. And it becomes the best of all things in your life. And so just keep it. It's not easy, but like Melissa said, build your community of people that will help you through, who will encourage you, speak positive words over you. It matters who's in your circle. It matters to the success of you getting through the things that you're going through. And so be intentional about your circle, be faithful, Um, Cling to the word and what it says. It will be your daily inspiration, your daily motivation, and look for the best of all things in every day of your life. Because if that's what you're looking for, then that's what you will find in each day.
Dr. Witt.
So I just want to say again, thank you for this opportunity. I've enjoyed this conversation. To every woman that will listen, or every brother that may share with a woman in her life, whether you're surviving silently or boldly thriving, I want you to know you are not alone and you are not forgotten. There is purpose in your pain. That's why we've been talking about this afternoon. Empower in your process. Sometimes God allows the breaking so He can rebuild you into something even more beautiful. What felt like, the end was really a divine invitation to begin again. God always places something on my heart. I want to share the simple phrase: "You are still her." You are still called, you're still chosen, you're still destined for greatness. Don't let the mess that you've walked through convince you that your value has diminished. In fact, the very thing that the enemy tried to use to break you, God is going to use it to bless others through you. And I mark my word on that. I want to say my sisters didn't share their social media. Melissa is I am Melissa Jones. Somone is Somone Washington. Y'all not sharing your Instagrams. Dr. Catrena, who couldn't be here with us on this evening, is Dr. Catrena 1913, and I am the _ global _ strategist. You can put all of our names in. You can find us. Please follow us. Please let us know what you thought. If our stories touched you, we want to connect with you. We encourage you to start writing your own story, whoever you are that are listening, not just with a pen, but with your decisions, your healing, and your truth. And you owe it to yourself to be whole and not just functional. We're here for you. Get our books, get one of our books, two of our books, three of our books, or all four, whatever your heart so desires. We are not done with this journey as God continues to elevate us each individually as well as within our family of Authors in Bloom. We just, again, want to connect with those who are listening. And I am the global strategist, Dr. LaShawn. You can just put me in and find me. My books are on Apple Books. They're on Amazon. They're on my website, drlashawnDeniseWitt.com. So let this moment be a reminder that you're divinely made, intentionally positioned, and absolutely equipped to rise. Now, I just made that up, so I ain't gonna remember what I said. So keep believing, keep healing, and above all, keep becoming.
And thank you, Dr. LaShawn. Real quick, I totally forgot. And check me out on iHeartRadio. I'm on 14 different cities. So look, hopefully I'm in your city. So yeah, check me out on iHeartRadio. Yeah, and hopefully we can connect there too. So thanks, Dr. LaShawn. Again, my IG is I am Melissa Jones.
Well, I want to thank you ladies for being here because this was truly actually, so this was my very first themed show, and it could not have been a better show. I hope that all is well.
Awesome.
With Dr. Elliott, and I hope that she gets a chance to watch the show. But I want to thank you all because you guys do matter. Your stories matter, and I know that there are an enormous amount of people that definitely can get meaning from what the words that you guys dropped today. It really there's a lot of passion to that, and I will say for myself is that when I just see it don't matter if it's male or female, but when we're doing the things that we need to do and we can do them as best as possible, but we also have that meaning and purpose, that's what actually makes me feel so much more happy and satisfied. You guys truly exemplified what America in Black and White is about, because we definitely try to target our communities and build our communities. and you guys have helped an enormous amount with that. I want to tell you, and I want to be first to tell you, thank you so much. I wish we could do this for like hours on hours, because I definitely want to continue, but I know there's about the time, but hopefully we can do this again. And I will say, once you guys get your copy
Absolutely.
of the online magazine, please flip through it. Read some of the articles in there, especially the one that there's a part that actually does a spot for this show and you guys, because it really meant that much to me. So I can say, and going forward, I definitely look forward to having y'all back, and I definitely look forward to just continuing to track your progress, because as you guys progress, we all progress. And so, for those that are watching on the YouTube channel, if you have not yet subscribed and got the notifications, please lend us your support and please help us out and do that. For those of you that are watching on any of the other platforms that we stream on, please support us and actually join. I want to again just thank you all again. This was truly a wonderful show, and hopefully, like I said, we'll get you guys back. But this is another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on America's canvas. We're signing out on Women with a Purpose, and you see these beautiful ladies here that have that purpose, that are serving each and every last one of us to grow, to build, to expand, and to unify. We can't do it without you all. Thank you all, and please join us again tomorrow night